How's it going, everyone? I'm Jason, and this is No Perspective Sports, the place where I committed to thinking of some clever opening every episode, but ran out of ideas after episode 3. That's where we are right now. That's where we're at. All right, let's get right into it. I got a bit of news. We're going to cover a little bit of news today. All right, so news broke yesterday morning, that Tom Brady, cute quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, will not be attending training camp for the next couple of weeks pertaining to a personal matter. He'll at least be gone until after the Buccaneers Titans preseason game, which is August 20th. It's apparently not a medical emergency or anything, not his own. It's not an injury or anything, and it has something to do with his work-life balance, is what he claimed. And and as far as him just up and leaving training camp and everything, well, whenever you're the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, I think you're kind of allowed to just sort of come and go as you please, right? Now that's Todd head coach Todd Bowles said something interesting about it. He said that quote, "This is something that we, Brady and Bowles, talked about before training camp started." So this kind of makes sense. So as you know, Brady was retired for a month and a half earlier on this year before returning to the NFL. And one of his main reasons for retiring was that he wanted to spend more time with his family, and he wanted to. That was a big part of why he left the game because he had spent so much time preparing. Being in the NFL, there's a lot of focus, a lot of on the road, and he now has a wife and he has kids that he needs to see grow up. And so that was a big reason why he said he was retiring, because he talked with his family and he decided that it would be time. Um, and I guess it makes sense that he talked with Todd Bowles, and probably talked with the Buccaneers owner, that if if he were to unretire and come back, that he could have a little more freedom to like come and go as he pleases, to take care of any family business that he needed to, no questions asked. And that seems like a fair trade-off to me. I know you don't want players to be entitled and to think that they are, better. But he is better than most other players, and he definitely deserves a level of respect. Because this is something that they signed up for. They signed up. They knew that if they're, this is probably something they knew, that if they were going to bring him back, that he'd probably end up leaving, coming back every now and then. Hopefully not during the regular season, but at least during training camp. Or he's gone through what, 20 something training camps at this point. And so I guess him, you know, leaving, the only downside to this is maybe his camaraderie with his wide receivers is not as strong as it could be. Because they added Julio Jones and Russell Gage, and he's worked with them, and he worked the first couple weeks of training camp. So it's not like he's just completely bounced and doesn't care about the team, but he's trying to balance it, which he has the privilege of doing because he spent so long and dedicated so many years to the game. I think it's fair. I think that if someone like Aaron Rodgers did this, who's also spent a lot of time in the game, not that he has a family, which is kind of terrible to say, but he did, he had a fiance, and he actually had to give up his engagement to go pursue more football, which is pretty, sad. Now, personally, if Aaron Rodgers were to go do this, I would see him as like being entitled and kind of obnoxious. But because it's Tom Brady, I like Tom Brady more than I like Aaron Rodgers, so I think it's okay. You could see I'm very unbiased in these opinions. I wanted to do a segment where I think of like possible reasons for why he's gone. Because it was very, what's it called? Very not ominous, but very there's a word for it. It's very vague in what he was leaving to go do. So I was gonna do a segment where I'm like, maybe he went and he signed up to one of Elon Musk's Mars tours, and he couldn't refund the tickets or something like that. But I realized like maybe it was something actually important, and I wouldn't want it to be like a bad take where it's like, if it's like a divorce or something that he's work has to go through, and that would just be really bad if I'm like making jokes and like, oh, maybe he decided he wanted to be a zookeeper for a week, and so that's what he's. And then we find out that he lost his kids. Anyway, so that's why I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to do that segment, but you know, it would have been funny, I think, a little bit. But we'll move on for now. Tom Brady, you'll be sorely missed for the next 2 weeks from the Buccaneers, at least, because they're going to have Kyle Trask. I think he's probably the next man up. So that'll be fun to watch in preseason, no doubt. All right, next bit of news. The Texans traded for Miami Dolphins tight end Adam Shaheen, or at least they would have if I was reading this 2 days ago, because actually the trade was canceled. It was like, what is it? It failed. They had to reverse it. So the trade was supposed to be a sixth round pick to the Dolphins for Shaheen and a seventh round pick, which would have been like a total fleece, is what they call it. They would have fleeced the Dolphins, and the Texans would have gotten an easy, decent tight end for like very low draft capital. However, Adam Shaheen failed his physical upon being traded, and so for every trade, the players that are traded usually have to do a routine physical before the trade is confirmed. And Shaheen was found to have had a minor knee injury that wasn't previously discovered. And the weird thing about it was that like the knee injury hadn't even caused him to miss any practice time, any playing time. It really was like no big deal, but because it was like not told to the Texans, it wasn't listed, and they did the physical and found out that he had a knee injury. They had to void the trade, so they couldn't. They had to send him back, which I think is a little annoying because I liked Shaheen as a prospect for the Texans. I feel like he would have played well in Pep Hamilton's system, and I think the way this may play out, what's probably going to happen, is the Dolphins are going to end up cutting Shaheen, and we'll just pick him up off waivers or out of free agency. But that's got to be kind of awkward, I think. Imagine if imagine if your company had decided they're going to fire you and send you to a new company, uh, but then they realized, oh, you're not good enough to even go to that new company. I guess you can come back. We'll rehire you back here. That would be kind of frustrating for me to have to deal with. So obviously, whether or not he gets cut, he might just be so disgruntled he tries to force his way out. Although I don't know if he has sort of Adam Shaheen isn't like top tier because, like I said, he was basically traded for like half a pick, half a late round pick, because it was a sixth for a seventh plus the tight end, which means he has very little value, at least as far as these guys are concerned. Um, so I think it's obviously they're gonna probably end up cutting him at the end of training camp and preseason. And that'll give the Texans an opportunity to go and grab him. And he is someone that I did like, and I did enjoy the stuff that he was able to do. So hopefully the Texans can pick him up and maybe play a vital role in the system next year. All right. So um, I was thinking over a scary scenario that the Texans could be facing pretty soon, and it could involve draft picks being lost. So after the Deshaun Watson scandal, the Houston Texans settled with defendants in 30 different cases from Watson's accusers and potential accusers. I don't want to get into any legal or moral debates. I just want to talk about the football part of it. Um, so I didn't think of any of it whenever I heard that these settlements happened. I just sort of assumed, oh well, they think that the Texans had a big substantial role in supporting Watson doing these things. And personally, I didn't agree that the Texans had as big a role as maybe the media or some of the naysayers may strongly input that they did. Maybe one or two members of the Texans was aware of the situation and didn't say anything about it. But I think as far as the organization as a whole may not have been fully aware, and so they just didn't do anything to stop it. But I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't want to offend anybody or make anybody mad. Although I probably do that every day. I probably did that with the Aaron Rodgers bit earlier. This is a little bit, harsher though. So I didn't think of anything of it right away. But then my dad brought something up. I was talking to him about it, and I realized he might be right about um, Texans probably could receive some big punishment from the NFL about this, right? So just recently, the Miami Dolphins were investigated and found to be cheating. Tampering is what they called it. They apparently had been in talks with Tom Brady and Saints former head coach Sean Payton since all the way back in 2019. Tom Brady was still on the Patriots back then. It was his last year. And so, because of that tampering, the Dolphins ended up losing a first round pick and a third round pick. Now, I'm afraid the Texans might end up suffering the same fate that he did, or that the Dolphins did. And it makes sense because it's just bad publicity for the NFL as a whole is to have like the Texans, and so the reason I bring up the Dolphins is because it shows that the NFL is willing to bring harsh punishment down, and if they're willing to take a first round pick for tampering, what might they be willing to take for supposedly us helping and providing help and assisting alleged sex offender. Well, I guess an alleged sexual harasser slash assaulter. I don't know what the legal term is or what the correct term is. Deshaun Watson, who is seen in the public eye as being a very bad man. So we could end up losing even the first round picks that we got from trading Deshaun Watson away, which would be terrible. Would really not be great because that's the only upside that we had from the Deshaun Watson debacle is that we had the picks that we could use, after getting rid of him. It sort of seemed like a win-win. We don't have to deal with this horrible situation anymore, and we get draft picks so we can get other players who are probably very wholesome and very nice and very respectful to women. But now we might end up losing those first rounders. It's something to watch out for as the NFL. I'm assuming there's an investigation pending, at least to some degree. So that could be bad. And I really hope that we can try and avoid that scenario because it definitely would interrupt the Texans' ability to rebuild over the next couple of years because they seem to have a plan laid out. And even if Davis Mills doesn't do good this year, we have high draft picks next year. Get a good quarterback, keep building with first and second round picks. The rest of the roster in 3 or 4 years, the idea is we have the potential to be a Super Bowl team. With losing a couple of round picks, that could definitely go down the drain, you know, because then it might delay things and we might not get the timing perfectly right and we don't sign the right guys or we lose players down the road. It would not be good. It would not be helpful to lose first round picks right now for the Texans. So let's hope that that doesn't happen and that the Texans live a nice, merry life free from Deshaun Watson and all of his wrongdoings. Last thing I want to look at. This is a pretty short episode. This actually was a short episode. I remember last time I said this will be short, and I went on and talked for a long while. But this one will be a lot shorter, I can tell. Last thing I want to look at is actually another tweet. And it's I'm gonna do another Twitter rant. But I was looking at Twitter and I see this tweet from NFL on CBS. It says, "Who do you want with the ball in their hands?" And then the picture says, "You need a game-breaking return touchdown. Who would you choose from this list?" And it has a list of like very successful return touchdown, players. If you know how the NFL works, whenever you kick or you punt and they return the ball, the runner, he can return it for a touchdown and it's called a return touchdown. So these are these players. Usually the returner can be a wide receiver, maybe a running back, maybe a cornerback, just anyone who's fast and has good special teams reps and awareness and stuff like that. And usually, I guess they have to be tough too, because running an open space downfield, hitting guys, it's, we're more likely to get injured. And obviously, some guys are better than others. These guys are seen to be very good. However, there are a couple players that feel like everyone in the comments, everyone in the yeah, I guess the comments or the replies of this tweet is naming some other player that's not listed, and they're like, "Where's Devin Hester? Where's Cordero Patterson? Oh, where's I can't think of any others that I read." But I feel like they purposefully are leaving out good return players, good return specialists, just so that they get more engagement and are like, "Oh, what about my favorite return specialist that was on my team?" And he got like 20 touchdowns, over the course of his career returning. And they're like, "Well, he's not on our list. Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you mad? Keep commenting and reply and tell us your whole story." And then get more engagement on the tweet. That's the whole plan, I think. It's just another thing where you're like, clearly you're trying to, you know, not trick people, but just manipulate them into giving you more, feedback and talk to them, which I guess it worked because now I'm talking about it too. It's like a multi-layered thing. It's like they know that what they're doing is kind of manipulative. And so they're hoping that people will talk about it and it'll get even more attention onto their tweets and into their, presumably the tweets then in turn give CBS more, viewers, I suppose. It gives them more attention, so more people go see them. It's all connected. It's all the one big conspiracy. Or they just didn't see them as being as elite as these players throughout history, and so they excluded them. So either way, um, the first player that came to mind and I immediately looked for was Cordero Patterson, who has got like a bunch of kick return touchdowns. I suppose none of them are really game winners though. So this is a game breaking return. So it does mean like last second return touchdown, like the Christmas game between the Eagles and the other team. I just remember the Eagles had a punt return for a touchdown as the clock hit 0, and they won the game. Not saying something like that. It just says game breaking, where it's like turns the tide or whatever. So yeah, obviously they're just trying to bait people, which good for them, I suppose. I could never be clever enough to bait anybody like that. All right, and with that tweet done, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope it was very succinct and I didn't ramble. I know there's a part in the middle where I had to cut and like kind of. I'm probably gonna edit that part out, or I'm probably gonna because I was silent for like a whole minute because I couldn't think of the word vague. Everybody knows the word vague, and I'm sure all you at home were yelling vague. It was vague because I was saying ominous, which doesn't make any sense. And so anyway, I really thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe because I'm gonna keep doing this. And if you didn't like the video, comment about how much you dislike the video. Just comment, but don't yeah, just and then reply to your own comment, and then use different accounts to send hate comments. And then oh yeah, I would be so pissed. I shouldn't. I would be so upset if you did that. I don't know if that's a swear word or not. I'm gonna have to check with my pastor if that's if I can say that. All right, but that's gonna be all. So have a nice day.